From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, day 2 of practice in the books. We've got observations for you. Looking at the resume of DJ Uiagalelei. Gets a bad rap, it feels like. And we are generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code Warchant BOGO. Buy one, get one free. The world's first clinically tested, clinically proven energy shot, which obviously anybody can pay to get tests done, Corey, but will it be proven to improve your focus? Will it be proven to improve your energy levels and your mood and your immune response? Yes, 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 and yes. VitaminEnergy.com, 260 milligrams of all natural caffeine, no sugar crash. Good stuff. Buy one, get one free. Noles helping Noles. Shake it and take it. I've been living on it this week, Corey. This whole waking up for 9 a.m. practice, which is a little bit easier these days, but it's made all that much easier with the help of caffeine and Vitamin Energy. Use it. Everybody shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code, again, Warchant BOGO. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code is FSU1. YouTube people or anybody listening to this, you can use it. Gets you 2 months of access for $1 American dollar. You can read all of Corey's observations, which we'll dive into mostly here on the show today, as well as Renegade Express mailbag and generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Corey, 2 days down. We got one more day this week of practice. We'll be back out there Sunday as well. How are you? Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Aslan. I appreciate it, man.
How was headlines yesterday? Spirited debate?
Crushed it. Not really much debate, but yeah, we got stuff to talk about now. So yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Okay. Let's get to some of these observations here, Corey. I jotted down only 2 things in terms of exciting plays. Trenches are not that exciting. It's just not.
Hey, by the way, did Ira run the A gap by Aslan? Did he run that in its entirety in my observations?
I think it made it. I do think it made it. I saw.
Okay, great.
I saw a reference to it. I appreciate you, Corey. Appreciate you. I know.
That's what I do, man.
At least somebody at Warchant appreciates me. So
finally,
yeah.
Finally, you found someone.
Fentrell Cypress in a one-on-one drill absolutely locked down Jaylen Brown. It was impressive. Any defensive win in one-on-ones is like almost a minor miracle when you think about it, because so many times, I shouldn't say so many times, but oftentimes it's no longer a route. It's survival of the fittest. These receivers start running crazy zigzags and they're going all over the place trying to get open. It would not happen in a real game. There would not be that amount of time. There wouldn't be that amount of space to get open. So the entire drill is so in favor of the offense and the wide receivers. But, man, Fentrell Cypress absolutely locked down Jaylen Brown on this one rep. I don't even know how he did the rest of the day, really, because I was focusing on the way the offense and defensive lines were looking. And then, man, Luane McCoy made an extremely impressive diving catch on one-on-ones. I think it was on a walk-on cornerback, but nonetheless, his effort, nice placement. I don't know who threw the actual football, but it was in one of the earlier one-on-ones out there. When they were outside, Corey. Those were the 2 offensive plays that kind of caught my eye. Or literally, I shouldn't say offense because Cypress was one of them. But those are the only 2 kind of plays that I remember seeing that I jotted down. Otherwise, all I've got are trenches, which is not that fun. So you go now. What do you see?
Okay. Well, and again, we have to reiterate, today they put on pads. But the first 2 days, they're in shorts and helmets. So the best competition by far is out wide with the wide receivers and DBs. That's why we've paid so much attention to them. Plus, the wide receivers are a question mark all preseason, so we're going to keep a eagle's eye view on them anyway. I would push back a little bit on you saying that they have all the time to throw. I do think Florida State, this coaching staff, does a good job of, in one-on-ones, like, man, it's a beat. 1, 2, 3, throw. If he's not open, he's not open. They don't. Because otherwise, I mean, if they had 11 seconds, they're all going to be wide open. I think they really do, in the spirit of competition and in the spirit of real football. The receiver makes his move, and then the throw is made whether he's open or not. I do think they do a pretty good job of that. But, yes, defenders are really at a disadvantage. You have to cover the whole field. And normally you don't. Like, it's not like Azaria Thomas in a real game has to go run all the way to the other side of the field typically. But anyway, so you mentioned Cypress, and I'm glad you did because I thought Cypress had another really impressive day. He did get beat for what would have been about a 95-yard touchdown by Malik Benson on like the 5th play of one-on-ones, which is more a celebration of Malik Benson than it is derogatory towards Cypress, because Cypress, I think, had a pick later on in the practice, or it was hard to know if it was a pick or if Ja'Kai Douglas knocked it loose before it was officially a catch, but had a really good play on the ball. He had a couple PBUs, so did Azaria. But my man Malik Benson essentially dusted him in one of the first routes of the entire one-on-one, and DJ put it right on him, and Cypress wasn't going to catch Benson once he caught the ball, so it was probably going to be a 95-yard touchdown. And then to add insult to injury, my man Benson then did the exact same thing to Azaria Thomas. Another deep pass where he's not wide open, he's 2 steps by him, but the ball's a little bit overthrown. But the news there being, I think we know Cypress is good, right? And we know Azaria is an NFL cornerback. We don't know what Malik Benson is. Really, we don't have any idea yet. So for him to come out and have back-to-back reps like that against the best that Florida State's got, I thought was a really good thing to see, because he's a really important player. Don't you think? We did talk about that on headlines. Like he's really important. Like if he's just pedestrian, just okay, well, that notches the offense down a good bit. But what if he's like a second-round type wide receiver? Our Lord knows, top 10 pick. Really have no idea. Then what does that do for the offense? And I think he's the one guy out of all the guys we've seen through the spring and then 2 days of preseason camp that has the potential to be the number one. And I thought on Thursday he looked like the number one, which was good to see.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in the mailbag and grab this one because I think it's a relevant segue, possibly. SQuinn67, wake up less than a month until we kick off in Dublin. Can't wait to hear the war chant in Aviva Stadium. Going to be awesome. Football's upon us. Also glad that Wake Up War Chant's back. Hope you guys had great vacations. The kickoff shows, interviews were great. Aslan, nice job on the speed round questions. Question, in both of your opinions, which player would provide the biggest lift to the team if they were to turn into a top performer? Other than DJ, what player needs to be elite nationally for the Noles to be champions? Is Malik Benson that guy now? Like, if he can be this speed freak, reliable hands, good clean routes, bona fide number one wide receiver, I mean, that's the one player that would provide the biggest lift if they would turn into a top performer, yay? Nay?
Yeah, if he could be a guy, like the guy, like an all-ACC caliber first-teamer, all-American type.
Need him to be a dude. Need him to be the dude.
Yeah. Yep. Then I think that I just think that would be so huge for this team, because I think we understand the defense is going to be pretty good, to maybe really good. We have no idea about the offense. None. Literally none. None of these guys did anything last year other than Toafili and Ja'Kai Douglas a little bit. I mean, the line, these guys were here, but as far as skill position guys go, Hakeem Williams didn't do anything. He had one catch, essentially, that mattered. Obviously, Jaylen Brown didn't do anything at LSU. Malik Benson played a lot at Alabama, didn't accomplish a lot, didn't produce a ton. Kyle Morlock had 20 catches. I just think that Jalen Lucas, probably had 600 yards of total offense. These are guys that Florida State's counting on to have big seasons and to be big contributors, and they haven't done it really at this level. So we have no idea. If Malik Benson can turn in a Keon Coleman type season, and obviously he's not Keon Coleman. They're different types of receivers, but if he can turn in a Keon Coleman type season, production-wise, yardage-wise, heaven forbid, touchdown-wise, then that elevates this thing to a probable playoff team, right? If you have a dude like an early round pick, a wide receiver, to go with what we think is going to be a much better running game and that stable of running backs anyway, that would, in giving DJ that kind of target to throw to, I just think that you almost can't put a price tag on what that would mean. You can't quantify how big a deal that would be. Just think of last year's team without Keon.
Yeah.
Think of last year's team with Keon. It's pretty good, right? That offense was incredible when he was healthy. And again, I don't foresee or predict or expect Malik Benson to have that type of impact. But what if he's close? What if he's like a poor man's version of Keon? What if he's a B plus to Keon's A plus? Like that. That's an extra win or two probably. So, making some special plays that you just can't teach. So, or it could be one of the other guys, but I think Malik is the closest we think to being one of those guys. So I would say Malik. I think the answer to that is Malik Benson, honestly, because right now I have a hard time seeing any of these other receivers as being that dude that he's the top of the game plan. Like, that's the guy we have to stop. We have to give all our attention to him. I don't see that with any of the other guys on the team right now. They're all fine players. Some of them might be really good, but I think we don't know. Malik is the guy that I think has that potential out of the ones we've seen.
What I would push back on, last year Keon 50 for 658 and 11 touchdowns. And if Malik is like a B plus version of Keon, so you maybe take like a small step back, I don't know if that's enough as your number one wide receiver to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really even thinking about the numbers, just the impact.
Yeah.
Keon's impact was more than just those numbers, honestly. Like, I don't know what he did against Miami. He might have 2 catches, but one was essentially the game-clinching touchdown after a 60-yard punt return. Like, he just had a way of making, typically, big plays in really big games.
4
the
for
Clemson
24,
game, obviously.
by the way.
That's all he had against Miami.
And a touchdown,
He just wasn't healthy. Yeah. But he had a big touchdown in the fourth quarter. And then he also set that up with a long punt return. So I think that I just think that those kind of plays, the catch he made against Syracuse, that was such a crazy catch. Obviously, the Clemson game. Though you might not beat Miami without Keon Coleman, honestly. I don't know. I definitely don't think you beat Clemson without Keon Coleman. And then going through later in the season, just what the attention he drew and what that did for other people, I think it's that kind of impact I'm talking about more than the numbers. Like, quite honestly, I'll be honest. I think I would be disappointed right now as I talk in late July. I think I would be disappointed if Malik Benson plays the full season and has less than 700 yards receiving.
Yeah,
he might have 900 yards receiving, but still obviously not be the impact player that Keon was, if that makes sense.
Well, the larger point here is, and not to, and I don't think we're getting too dramatic here, but we were hoping that we were going to see some instant kind of spark out of Hakeem Williams early on here in camp, and maybe today, Friday, they put pads on. Maybe that brings a little bit. Maybe that's the great equalizer, and he can kind of flash what he has. But right now, it just feels like Malik Benson is. I don't know if there's betting lines. Feels like he's like minus 150 to be your leading wide receiver. Hakeem Williams is probably like plus 200, and then everybody else kind of falls, behind those two guys. So
I think I'd say Portier in the middle.
Okay.
I think I'd put Portier in the middle between Malik and Hakeem. I think
really?
Portier is yeah, I do. And he had a couple of nice catches on Thursday over the middle. One on a great throw from Brock Glenn, who, by the way, did not look like John Elway on Thursday. He wasn't. DJ was the better quarterback on Thursday by a pretty wide margin. And I got, it's an interesting conversation I wanted to have before we get to another question. Ira was talking about how we should, and I agree with him, how we should maybe ramp down our observations a little bit because we're so early in practices. Because I post the observations yesterday, and then underneath the observations are people saying, see, I told you DJ wasn't very good. DJ's not good enough. And my pushback to that is, man, that's not on me. Like, that's idiocy. And I'm not, whoever that person was.
It's overreaction. Yeah, we don't have to call names.
But it's to the point of idiocy. Like, it's one practice in shorts. Yeah. And at no point do I make the case that Brock Glenn is the starting quarterback or going to be the starting quarterback, or even that DJ was bad. He just didn't hit the throws that Brock Glenn hit. But again, Brock Glenn was going against second string. That doesn't mean that DJ sucks. And if you take those kind of observations and morph them into, well, DJ's not any good, we're doomed, then that's on you. That's your fault. I can't control that. So that was my point. Is like, so when you hear me say, like today, Hakeem Williams, Thursday. Hakeem Williams wasn't very good, was he, Aslan? Didn't do a whole lot to impress me.
Okay. I didn't know it. I wasn't really watching it a lot of it, but so.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Okay. He was not very good. I don't remember him catching a ball. He would have caught, but DJ made a bad throw.
Was he dropping balls or was just not involved?
No.
Plays?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. He was involved in plays. He just couldn't get open.
Oh, okay.
Now he was going up against the other number 8, on a few of those, so therein lies that problem. But that does not mean that Hakeem Williams by Ireland won't be a starter and won't be good. So, but he wasn't good on Thursday. He was pretty good on Wednesday, not very good on Thursday, but that's sports. That's life. That you have good days and bad days, and it's, I don't judge. I wouldn't ever make a judgment about a player like Hakeem Williams after 2 practices. I do want to see what he looks like after North Florida, after Jacksonville. I think 2 weeks in is a fair time to step back and say, okay, not that can he be something by the end of this year. Can he be something by Ireland? Because that's all I'm caring about right now when it comes to judging these wide receivers. Who's going to be on the field against Georgia Tech? Who are they going to be expecting to make plays? Right now, to me, Malik Benson seems like an automatic. Kentron Portier is close to me to being an automatic. And Ja'Kai Douglas. Those 3, I think, for sure are going to be playing in this offense. But I don't know how much, and everything else is up for grabs. Hakeem Williams might be like the ACC Rookie of the Year. I have no idea what his ceiling is. He didn't look good on Thursday. He might be awesome today. That's the beauty of sports and the beauty of life.
How far out of that list is Loane McCoy for you right now?
Man, I got to see him going up against better people. But man, he was impressive again on Thursday. Like you talked about, that diving catch might have been the best catch anybody had all day. It was a well-placed throw because the coverage was pretty good. But man, that's a guy that he just had to be able to lay out like that, diving horizontally, and like the athleticism to catch it, and then I don't know, man, the way he curled his body to make sure the ground didn't knock it out. There's just some instinctual stuff with him that looks like he's going to be an NFL wide receiver. Now, could be completely wrong. Yeah. Been wrong 9 times in my life, so we might be close to double digits. But, man, I don't know that I expect him to be ready for Georgia Tech, but I do think he's going to be a player for this program for sure. And he might be a real guy this season, man. He looks smooth, but, again, I want to see him against better people before I really make that judgment.
Before we jump into some more of these questions, looking at what I was able to see on Thursday in terms of the offensive line, defensive line, Corey, I kind of want to ask you here real quick. Seeing Joshua Farmer and Darrell Jackson side by side playing, going through reps, your jaw almost drops.
Yeah.
In just terms of their sheer size, their quickness, their movements. And then Odell and Mike Norvell are underscoring kind of, what we're seeing with our own 2 eyes. I wonder, though, if there's any other segment on the team right now where you go from your ones to the guys that are going to be the first up, and especially that position, because if you're the number 3, number 4 defensive tackle in the Odell Haggins, Adam Fuller rotation, man, you're pretty much, 1C and 1D on the depth chart, if you will. And I know I was glowing about how great I think his defense is going to be next year. I think that might be the one spot there where really hope the depth in these next 23 practices hones itself to a very large degree, because I feel that might be the one spot where when the main guys come off the field, the next guys come up, there might be you can feel maybe the drop in terms of their importance and their acumen, I guess, maybe to use a really clumsy word.
Yeah, I think that who would we even think it is right now? Like Grady Kelly for sure, the transfer from Colorado State. I think he's going to be one of the top backups. And then, I don't know, the kid from West Virginia maybe?
I think Lions
Sampson,
now.
Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some bodies though, right? Like
they've
got some guys that and I wouldn't call it a problem, but you can throw at this issue. But if we're being realistic, when you got 2 NFL defensive tackles, which I think these 2 guys are, Darrell Jackson looks you don't see people that look like that. You don't see even football. I've covered Florida State through one of the best college football teams of all time. There's some really good times. He's a different looking dude, man. He just it's not normal. But when you have 2 NFL defensive tackles as your starters, well, yeah, I mean that's most teams in the country, it's going to be a pretty significant drop-off from their starters to the backups. That's why they're the starters. I will say this, I think the 2 defensive tackle, the backup defensive tackles this year will be better than the backup defensive ends last year. And they ran those guys out, and they went 13-0. And they played a lot of football, those two backup defensive ends. I do think that whatever the combination ends up being, I believe in Daniel Lyons, man. And I believe in the kid from West Virginia, and Grady Kelly's a grown man. He's not Braden Fisk. He's not going to be Braden Fisk. He's not. Nobody expects him to be, but he is a guy that isn't going to embarrass you, that isn't going to get pushed around. That's a nice luxury to have, a guy like that you expect to play, 20 snaps to give those other guys a break? I don't think you're going to get steamrolled with those dudes that I just mentioned running on the field as backups. There aren't many teams that have backups that are significantly better than that, right?
Right. But I'm not so much worried about what like Miami has at their defensive tackle. I'm just worried about what Florida State has, and then going up against offensive lines that, Georgia Tech's got a pretty potent offense. I think SMU is going to probably be able to figure out some things for at least, a half of football. Who knows how Clemson's going to look with a second-year offensive Garrett Riley, and then Clay Klubnik kind of maybe coming into a little bit of form, and their receivers coming back. So there's just some offenses out there that make you hope that the defensive line on the interior that can really, hold the point of attack for the duration. Because, I'm not down on those kids. It's just maybe it's Farmer and Daryl Jackson. Maybe they're just freaks, and their backups are the way that I guess you're saying most other backups would look around the country, and that's
and also let's see what they look like starting today, right?
Yeah.
Like they got 3 weeks to prove how good they are. These backup defensive tackles. Wow, that was a big thunder.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
hunk
big
it down.
one.
Hunk it down.
Yeah, these Tallahassee evening thunderstorms, buddy. You gotta love it. I do think that. Daniel Lyons, we just don't know. And the West Virginia kid is unmolded. Like, let's see what they look like as they get more real reps. Because it's hard to make any gauge on any of those guys in shorts.
Yeah.
Now, today, we get to start really seeing who's winning battles and who maybe has turned a corner. You're right. It's a legitimate worry. It's a legitimate concern. Mm-hmm. That backup defensive tackle role, but I thought the backup defensive ends last year were a legitimate concern, and they were.
Yeah, you're right.
You ended up still being pretty good.
Yeah. A couple other things from the line play, if you will. Robert Scott's alive and well. He had a nice sequence in 11-on-11 towards the end of practice where he did a really good job creating a running lane. I mean, he pushed his assignment almost 10 yards down the field in some good on good. And then he followed that up with some good pass protection later on that same sequence. So he's out there. I know some people might have, kind of written him off to a large degree this season. And I just hope his body, man, holds up. After we spoke to Norvell after the first day of practice on Wednesday, he kind of clustered him, Darius, and Maurice into kind of, hey, they've played so much football for us. It's kind of the onus is on us just to manage them well here and make sure we keep their bodies on point. So hopefully Robert can maintain his health. And then Odell Hagens, I mean, if you watch the practice video, the last 2 minutes is him coaching his guys, hitting the sled, and it's equal parts high comedy and just confidence that you have such a great coach. And the cool thing, Corey, about the way practice is now, I guess kind of maybe the silver lining now with all that construction going on is that, or maybe we could have done it last year, but I never did. I would always stay up with you guys in Hauser and watch the entire part of practice, maybe up until the last 4 or 5 periods when we all would go inside. But like halfway through practice, I went inside into the IPF and I was getting to watch Odell coaching these guys through some drills. And you kind of see them going on their snack break, hydration break, and just the way he talks to the guys. And it all makes sense because he coaches them so freaking hard when that clock is running between periods. But when they get like a little bit of a break, you can kind of see him putting his arm around these guys metaphorically and really kind of loving and coaching them up, and it's really cool to see. Well, there was a moment that made into your observation notes I just wanted to share with people that just this is probably like quintessential Odell about why guys like Travis Johnson and Darnell Dockett still to this day love that guy. There's a true freshman, and he yelled at 2 true freshmen going through a drill, talking. He's like, y'all look slow, the both of you. What is your problem? And then the next time around, this freshman, he went through it pretty good, I guess, apparently. And Odell's like, hey, man, give me 5 up downs for doing it right the first time around. And the kid looked totally dejected. He's like what? Like, I did good, coach. All right, fine. I'm going to start doing some up downs. And then Odell laughs like, man, I'm kidding with you. But for real, give me one at least because you were too high on your knees. So it's this great balance to see. And I know you threw in some observation there from what you heard Patrick Surtain say during a drill. It's just really cool. It's a luxury that we have covering this team, being able to be so close to the action. We'll try to throw things like that into Corey's observations, or at least the podcast, as we move forward throughout this fall camp, if you will. So subscribe, everybody. Back to some of these questions, Corey. FSU Man 5030, wake up. Do you think part of the reason for the drop balls in spring, and I guess maybe we can add fall, is because DJ Uiagalelei throws a harder, less catchable ball than Jordan?
No, quite frankly, I don't think that's it at all. I don't. DJ doesn't really let it rip. And I should say this: there were 2 drops on Thursday, out of 80 completions. When you factor in air against air and 1-on-1s and 7-on-7s, 50, 70 completions. Drops weren't a problem on Thursday, and I don't really remember them being a problem on Wednesday either. It's you don't want it to be like Butterfingers, but looking back at the spring, there were days where it felt like it was contagious. But I don't foresee this team being a horrible drop team. You know what I mean? I don't know that's, at least through 2 days, that hasn't been an issue. We'll see. I mean, there are going to be days where they don't do well. You just hope it's not on a Saturday in the fall and they don't drop a lot of passes. But to that point, it's a fair question. It's a good question. But when you watch DJ throw, Aslan, what stands out about him is not so much the velocity. It's because it's not like he's throwing a Nolan Ryan fastball. He was a pitcher in the 70s, 80s, and 90s kids. It's not a Nolan Ryan fastball all the time. It's just that with so little effort, he seems to be able to throw it as hard as Jordan did, where he put his back foot into it and let it rip. DJ can do that with a flick of the wrist. But it's about the same velocity, I would say, on the intermediate routes. You're not looking at going, wow. No, if he lets it loose, it's going to put a hole in the chest. And then obviously he can throw it over the mountains if he wants to throw it distance-wise. But I don't know that it's been a velocity thing with him. In fact, he had a really, really nice throw to Morlock on Thursday, which was just a great touch throw over Omar Graham. Omar Graham had pretty good coverage, honestly. It's just that Kyle Morlock is, 6'6", and DJ put it in a perfect spot where only the 6'6" guy could reach out and get it. Really nice throw and catch. The second time those two have hooked up for a big gain in 7-on-7. So, I've actually been impressed with DJ's touch so far.
Speaking of Kyle Morlock, congrats to him. He re-upped with Battle's End. So I guess apparently
nice.
I guess they just do 1-year deals with some of these guys. KJ Kirkland got re-upped. Kevin Noles got re-upped. Devontae Brown and Luane McCoy, newcomers, they're part of the team now as well. So that's interesting. There was another freshman, I think, the other day that I'm like, all right, so freshmen are part of this thing, which obviously they are. I just know some people out there think that, they're going to have to earn before. They're going to have to do some stuff on the field before they earn. But I just don't know if that's the way it's going to work out. But
Battles In should have gotten that Stanford softball pitcher.
My goodness.
To come join Lonnie's team for $1.2 million, like she got to go to Texas Tech.
You think they'll make it to Oklahoma City?
I mean, if they don't, literally, she's going to – I don't know what Texas Tech pays their softball coach. I assume it's less than $1.2 million a year. So, and I don't know what they charge for season tickets. But hey, more power to her. She's awesome. And it's not like softball players get paid a lot. They don't. I don't know, man. Their images don't go up once they get out of college. This is, for better or worse, college softball is the pinnacle of the sport on the national level. There's no real professional league. Is it even an Olympic sport?
I think so.
I mean, I know they just played a World Cup thing because Jesse Warren was on it, but I don't know if it's an Olympic sport or not. But their biggest chance to make money. It is an Olympic sport.
Yes.
Well, that's good. I hope they win. It is really college. That's when they can have their biggest names, their biggest marketing opportunities. So good for her, man. She's a huge name. That sport is exploding in popularity, so I'm glad she's getting this kind of money because it's not like there's a major leagues for her to go to where she's going to get Paul Skeens money. So, or James Tibbs money. Congrats to him for signing, by the way. They all signed, I think, except for maybe Connor Whitaker hasn't signed yet.
All right.
But Dingus and Jaime Ferrer both signed on Wednesday evening. So they are locked in as professional baseball players as well.
All right, so Google said yes, it's a current Olympic sport, but it won't be this time around. It's going to return in 2028. So I guess they were halfway right. Come on, AI. Like really, like we're supposed to fear this is going to take over the world. It can't even give me a straight answer when I ask a softball an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I know, buddy.
I digress. I'm trying to get some.
It's like you trying to Google Norvell's season highlights.
Hey, be nice.
Screwed you up.
Oh, never. That's not the number I was looking for. I was trying to see how much money the Texas Tech coach is going to get. His annual salary increased from $180 to $250. Glasgow said the pay increase wasn't the deciding factor. So I guess maybe he's getting $250 to coach at Texas Tech. That's crazy. And
even if it's $500, he's making $700,000 less than his pitcher. That you know what else is crazy too? Like because David Ross was at practice on Thursday.
Again, 2 days in a row, man. I love it. Ross.
Yeah, and so he got ousted as the Cubs manager so they could bring in Craig Counsell, which is fine, whatever. I'm not arguing for or against that move. I don't care about the Cubs. But Craig Counsell is the highest paid manager in baseball history, and he makes $8 million a year.
Oh, my God.
Which it would be, what, 11th in the SEC? Football? Like, it's just in the buyout, like, what did they pay David? What was David Ross's buyout? $2 million? $3 million? But Florida State owed Willie Taggart $25 million? Like, the college football, the coaching salary / contracts are so out of control that I can't sit here and bemoan a softball pitcher making $1.2 million when Willie Taggart got paid over $20 million, around $20 million, to not coach a football team. So but she might as well get it. She's really good at what she does.
No dollar figures on when he got an extension apparently at one point.
Who?
Rossi.
Willie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In 2022,
but they don't even talk about it. It's
Right.
not even something that's talked about in the professional ranks.
NFL, like no one knows how much Bill Belichick made. Like no one knows.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's really bizarre how college football contracts work.
Let's go to the next question here, Corey. It's our guy Gator Kirk. We used to hear him on the phone all the time. We have to sell for merely just his fingers typing out messages. I like this one though, Corey. It's short and to the point. We've got a long show today. Let's do it. I think it's going to spark discussion. It's going to generate discussion, which is sparked by Cummins. Let's go ahead and fire up the generator, please. Oh yeah. And fire up the cameras and look at us. Nice shirt.
Same shirt, buddy. Who wore it better?
I did.
Who wore it better?
Generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Awesome people over at Cummins. A global power leader. Their stuff is rock solid. I can't believe they sponsor our little piddly podcast sometimes. They're incredible. Follow them on Instagram. Cummins Lifestyle, all one word. Florida State alums at the helm. They listen to the show too, which is incredible. Go follow them on Instagram, everybody, please. We go to our guy Gator Kirk, though, Corey. His question,
let's do it.
Right to the point. He tells us to wake up. Who is your ride or die player on offense and defense on this current team? Go Noles. I can jump first, Corey, unless something's coming to your mind. If you want to ruminate for a minute, you can
go. You go.
All right. Offense, I know it's not sexy. I'm going with Maurice Smith.
Okay.
He's been here through a lot. He's had guys year after year come in almost explicitly to take his job, yet for some reason they don't. He's held together at times by popsicle sticks and duct tape, yet gets out there and toughs it out for this team. I think no matter what happens throughout the course of the season, there's not going to be a play that's going to go awry that's going to cost Florida State where you're going to be like, man, Maurice Smith misses assignment. So I'm going to ride with Maurice Smith. And then on defense, I think I know who you're going to go with. I'm going to go with a guy in that same, sort of the same room. I'm going to go with Shaheem Brown. I think Shaheem's like the spiritual leader of this team. I was a little bit late arriving to the party. You, for a while, have been talking about how much Adam Fuller talked him up. And I was like, we'll see about that. But, man, Shaheem just whether it's what he did in against LSU in New Orleans or just the way he kind of, when we hear him talk, man, he's just so sincere, to the point, seems to care about his teammates to such a large degree. That's the kind of guy I want to foxhole with. I'll ride or die with Shaheem Brown. I think, again, nothing's going to come towards his side of the field. He's not going to be on a missed assignment. If he was on the field to play against Jacksonville State, that game wouldn't have gone down the way it did. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay. All right. Nice. Well said. I'll stay on that side of the ball for now. I guess the guy you're thinking of is Azarie. And yeah, that's my guy. That guy is I think he's the most talented player on the defense. Maybe not the most important, because you probably get that to Patrick Payton or Darryl Jett, one of the guys up front. But Azarie Thomas is very good. He took his lumps early. He played a lot as a freshman, but took some lumps and just got better and better last year, until the point where I think he is one of the best players in the United States, I think. We'll see. I definitely think he's one of the best cornerbacks in the conference, maybe the country. And I like everything about him. I think he's a guy that's another good teammate. I think he's a guy that tries hard. He's so competitive, but he's not competitive in a negative way. He's just really competitive and holds himself to a high standard, which only makes other people do the same thing around him, whether they're the receivers that are trying to beat him or the guys in the room with him, the other fellow DBs. I just think those kind of people have a great presence on a football team and matter a lot. And then on offense, I'm going with Toafili. My man Lawrence Toafili. Kind of always not an afterthought. That's too rude, and I don't mean it that way. But he's not when you talk about not sexy, people don't think about him. They get excited about the shiny new toys, whether it's Roydell Williams or Jalen Lucas. And there are good reasons to be excited. But Toafili has been here now this is his 5th year. He's produced a lot. I mean, that catch against Clemson was 3 years ago. He was the MVP of the ACC championship game. Now, clearly that probably should have been a defensive lineman. But the dude has been making plays really from the jump. He's always been positive when we've talked to him. I think he's a really good teammate. He's a veteran presence, a veteran leader, and he's a guy that's okay in that role. I don't think he's ever moaned about not getting carries and not getting touches and playing kind of second fiddle to Trey Benson. And now this is his year to shine and really be the starter. And the guy's really good. I think he's an underappreciated, undervalued Florida State Seminole, and this is his 5th year, and I'm riding and dying with that guy.
I think I don't know if it was the end of the first half or the beginning of the second half, but there was a really nice screenplay thrown his way against LSU last year in the opener.
Yeah, it was the 4th down play. They got him down to the 1 yard line. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So he does make big plays, and I'm as guilty as anybody for overlooking him. So good call. 727 Pinellas County represent. Lawrence Toafili, good dude. Also good dudes and ladies working over at Cummins Lifestyle. Follow them on Instagram. You can see all the cool things they're doing. Again, I think there might be some kind of merging of Cummins and Warchant at some point down the line this football season, maybe in a Midwestern city, college town. We'll see how it all goes. By the way, Cummins stock up 57 basis points yesterday, Corey.
Let's go.
$283.17. Their stock trading right now, but they're on our show. Yeah. Crazy how that works. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com. That's the website. 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Go check it out. Lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You know that. Chicken strip basket today, though, y'all. Get your sauce on the side or get your fingers tossed in the sauce. Comes with a side dish of your choice as well. Again, only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Live entertainment as well. Temple of the Cat. That'll be fun. Either today or maybe tomorrow. Who knows? What I do know is if you go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, you will not be disappointed. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Check it out. All right, let's get back to these things. Marlon Joker, who was the winner of our swag bag giveaway last month. Shout out to Marlon. He says, thanks, guys, for the swag. The hat is dope. The power station saved me when I was on vacation in DR. I think that's Denmark. FSU football's back along with Wake Up. Be blessed, my guys. He also got a question. By the way, I know it's Dominican Republic. Chill out, everybody. He's got 3-pack of questions. It's quick, though. He says, will DJs lose Florida State a game this year? Will the offensive line finally produce a 1,000-yard back, maybe even 2 like Norvell had in Memphis? And will Florida State return to Charlotte to play for the ACC title? From Miami with love, Marlon.
Okay.
That's tough, man. Like,
no prediction time. No, definitely no on the 1,000 yards back. They're just gonna have too many guys. I think they're gonna have probably four guys that play.
I know, but he had
So it's
two.
gonna be tough.
He had multiple 1,000-yard running backs like in the same season in Memphis. We can't get one. It's crazy, and his offense is still produce. Like, it's not. I need to look at the actual like raw yardage, but his offenses in Memphis were like top 15, top 20 in total yards. Florida State was, I think, in the top 20 this past year. But for whatever reason, like the yardages just never break out to this, stat catching line for whatever reason. I don't mind, but it's a little bit of a weird thing. It seems like
Benson could have played in the Orange Bowl. He might have gotten to 1,000 yards if he had done that.
Yeah.
Probably not, though, the way that game was going. And he got what did he get? 988 in his first year. So I know it's not technically 1,000, but you can't argue with how Trey Benson performed in his 2 years. I don't think who would it be? Like, that's the thing. I don't foresee Toafili being a 1,000-yard rusher. I do think he's your starter.
right.
But how many carries is he going to get? 12, 8, 14? Is he? I think he's an every down back, but I don't think he's a guy you ride for 25 carries. So he's going to split time with Roydell. I think Keziah Holmes looked really good on Thursday, made a couple of big plays, and then obviously Jalen Lucas is going to be in the mix in some capacity. So I don't know, man. I think they'll run for more yards than last year. Clearly they need to. They better. But I don't know that you're going to have I don't expect 1,000-yard rusher. Certainly not two. That would be if they have two 1,000-yard rushers. They are going to be in the top 5 in the country when the playoffs start.
Will DJ's lose Florida State a game this year? I mean, I'm trying.
It's a good question. I know what he means. Like,
yeah.
is
will
he
be
going to have two?
He won't be the sole reason,
Yes.
but like, will he be the number
Yeah.
one reason out of 4 things that went wrong that game that led them to a loss?
He was just off. He just had a bad day, which does happen.
I mean, here's my thing, like nightmare scenario. Like if Cam Ward outduels him, did DJ lose you the game? That's the kind of maybe half rhetorical question I'm trying to pose.
I don't think so. Like you're
know.
saying if Miami wins 38-35 or something.
Yeah, 38, 34.
Then
38,
I think the defense lost you the game there. I don't think you could blame that on DJ. So, yeah, perhaps.
I don't know what happened last year, but in Clemson he did, though. I mean, his play did cost them games, but I don't know what happened last year in Corvallis.
I think his play cost them absolutely. I don't know Oregon State. I do think his play cost them the last game of his career at Clemson, the South Carolina game.
Right.
He was horrible. He was like 9 of 30. And obviously in 2021, his play should have cost them against Florida State. They should have lost that game. Or it could have come close to losing that game anyway. He had 3 picks, but the offense couldn't do anything against that Clemson defense. But, his last year at Clemson, until that South Carolina game, they were 10-1. And then they went 8-4 last year. So, he's winning a lot more than he's losing. Yeah, I don't know. I know I've looked at his game log from Oregon State. I didn't see any of those numbers and we're like, oh, that's why they lost. That's why the Beavers couldn't get it done because DJ was horrible. It looked like he was solid to good at all of them. And I feel like he was kind of like that in 2022 at Clemson. I don't remember the game they lost other than South Carolina. But yeah, I don't remember him the last 2 years. I don't feel like you would point at that and be like, that's why they lost the game. DJ was just not good enough.
His completion percentage was under 55% in 6 games last year. They went 2-4 in those games. They did beat Colorado 26-19. He was 12 of 24 for 223, didn't turn the ball over, and they beat San Diego State when he went 14 for 30, which is a 47% completion percentage. He had 1 touchdown, 2 if you count rushing, and then he had 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions.
How many yards did he throw for in the 14 for 30 game?
284, so that's solid.
That's what I'm saying. 20 yards of completion is pretty big-time stuff. Like, that would have been the 4th most yards Jordan Travis threw for last year, maybe the 3rd most. The completion percentage isn't great, but I think that's right where Norvell wants to live, right? Those 2 games you just mentioned. Was he 12 of 24 and 14 of 30? Yeah. Obviously, you'd like to be a little more efficient, but you're taking shots. big shots, clearly, with those numbers and in that yardage. And if he's not turning the ball over like he didn't against Colorado, he's not losing you the game. And, again, if you're only throwing 24 times in a game, that means you're running pretty well. And I just think we're going to put so much attention on DJ, and rightfully so. He's the veteran transfer, former hotshot quarterback. But if the run game is better, if the run game is good, it opens up all of it. You could have remember the Jordan Travis North Carolina game from 2021?
Yeah.
When he threw like 11 passes?
Right. Yeah.
And they scored 30-something points, and then the Miami game in 22, where I don't know how many passes he completed, but not many, and they just ran it down their throats. That's what Norvell wants, and if you can do that, then I don't think you're going to ask DJ to not lose you games. But yeah, that said, odds are if they play 13 games, there will be a game where a horrible interception you could look at and say that's what did it, that he just wasn't sharp, or he was 11 out of 33. And if he'd have been 19 out of 33, they'd have won the game. It's just hard to quantify when a quarterback absolutely loses you a game.
You know what's wild is he only had like 2 gross games at Clemson. And it was like the first start of the 21 season against Georgia.
Which who wouldn't? Yeah.
But still, I mean, it was a 10-3 game. Like, we need something.
I think his game against and I think Georgia's touchdown was a pick 6.
Yeah.
And then the
quick,
Florida State game was gross.
Yeah.
That year.
Real quick, so 21, he loses to Georgia, loses in double overtime in Raleigh, and then loses at Pitt. And then 2022, it's like a sneaky good season, kind of. I mean, they started off, I think, 9-0. They lose to Notre Dame. They beat Louisville. They beat Miami. And then he lays an absolute egg against South Carolina, loses his job. And then they go on and they beat North Carolina in the ACC championship.
And what were his numbers against Florida State? Can you look that up?
In 22 or 21?
In 22. Yeah,
22. 15 of 23, so 65% with 3 touchdowns. And he ran for 1 as well. So he had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, man. And how many yards?
203 in the air, 26 on the ground.
But I mean, 15 of 23
for 203.
For 203 is like that's a Mike Norvell. That's the blueprint, man. If you can keep the chains moving with play action, obviously he can run a little bit to keep the chains moving because he's a big kid that can fall forward. And your running game is good enough. I mean, they had Shipley, but your running game is good enough, and he's not turning the ball over. Man, that's the recipe. Right. That game that he played against Florida State in 2022 is the recipe, and he quite frankly had a lot of those games the last 2 years. So I think, you know you're not getting Jameis Winston, but if you get this DJ, it's good enough to win every game on the schedule. You're probably not going to win every game on the schedule, but this guy is more than a competent college quarterback. He is a good college quarterback.
Yeah.
And he looked the part again on Thursday. It's good to see.
And then will Florida State return to Charlotte to play in the ACC championship game?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. It feels like there's probably 4 teams kind of that are maybe a cut above, like Florida State, Louisville, Clemson, I guess Miami going into this one. And then you just have to factor in like one dark horse, like one team that might just come out of nowhere, much like Louisville did last year. So, I mean, in an 18-team conference, to be like one of the 4 best in there, and obviously 2 are going to make it to the championship game, those are really good odds. I will take them. All right, we're going to get to the rest of these questions on the Monday show, everybody. So if we didn't take your question, sorry, but we'll get to it. We're going to get to, come on, Aslan, figure it out. Let's go to Kentucky. Bourbon is your friend. Is it safe to assume that the most mass FSU has ever sent to the ACC media days? Is it safe to assume that was the most mass? How much cloth was used to make those 3 suits? Honestly, I'm going to make my son watch those videos because it's hard for me to convey that success does not come quickly. It's not about talent all the time, but pairing it with hard work, resilience, and a willingness to listen to criticism and endure hard times. It's cool to see there's character to match the beef. Corey, that was most likely a nice gesture from Jim Phillips to give you some food and drink, but how did you feel after consuming those gifts? Do you still have both kidneys?
Yeah, I'm good. He didn't poison anything. And it was sealed. I made sure it was sealed, what he gave me.
Okay. All right, well, we'll take one last one. Evens or odds, Corey?
Oh, I did want to say that again. I do want to reiterate. It's a fair point because all those three guys were homegrown guys, and Darius Washington, man, just kudos to that dude. He's seen it all. He lived through 19. He lived through a coaching change. Had to start as a true freshman on that team. Then 2020 was a nightmare. He was there for 0-4 to start 2021, and then he's been there for a 19-game winning streak. And now he's an All-ACC tackle. Like what a career, what an arc for one player. Like that there aren't many guys that can sound like a granddad talking about the olden days that are still on the current roster. But Darius Washington and Maurice Smith, both like Maurice Smith is 19 too, right? I think it was a 19.
Yes.
A 19 commit.
Yeah.
Man, that's a signee. That's just really cool, man. That they've gotten to live as we all have. We were all in the dark days too, but they put in more blood, sweat, and tears than we have by a factor of 100,000. So it's really neat. I feel good for them that they've gotten to live see their careers pan out the way they've panned out.
Yeah, the crazy thing is with Maurice, if like Telly Lockett wasn't part of that staff, he probably is not here at Florida State. Now, would they have found a center that
Telly Lockett, wow.
He was going to Boston College, and then like at the last minute, they just kind of, threw out an offer, and obviously you're going to jump on that one because Boston College apparently has the worst visiting locker room, although you wouldn't be in the visiting locker room if you went to Boston College, but you get it.
Right.
Probably don't take care of anybody. All right, I lied. Last one here before we talk about some recruiting stuff. Nole for life, class of 2007. Wake up, fellas. Glad we can start talking about football again. Saw a thread on Twitter that gave odds for coaches that will most likely be fired by the end of the season. Billy Napier topped the list 4-1. Coral Gables Community College, their coach, was third. Wow, 6-1, really? In a perfect world, Napier does enough to keep his job while the other dude gets a boot to the posterior, in my opinion. My question to you is, who do you believe would benefit FSU most to be fired? Who do you believe would benefit us most if they kept their job? P.S. Both getting fired is an acceptable answer. Laughing emoji.
I mean, I think, me personally, I think Cristobal being fired would be better for Florida State.
I don't think
because
so.
I do think he can recruit, and I think he can put together a roster. Now, his game day stuff is outrageous at times, and you wonder how good they're ever going to be because of that. Is that so much of a hindrance that they can never put it together and have a really good season because of some dumb stuff he does? But I don't, and I could be wrong. I could be freezing cold take right here, and in 5 years, Florida fans are laughing at me for making. I mean, you scared of Billy Napier? Like, let Napier stay in Gainesville forever. Like Norvell versus Napier to me seems like a mismatch. Right. It just seems like a mismatch. So keep that around as long as you can. Like I don't. I'm not.
I think
I'm not
you just
trying
said
to take
both.
a shot here.
But no, Napier keeping his job.
No,
is the
I
best
think
thing.
I think you want. That's what I'm saying. I think Napier keeping his job is what Florida State fans want, and I think it would be good for Florida State fans if Cristobal got fired. Because there's no guarantee the next guy will be able to bring in anybody.
Where do they
maybe
go?
the money dries up.
Where does Miami
I
go?
don't
Like,
know.
if Napier getting fired, it seemed for whatever reason, like Lane Kiffin probably gets one of the first phone calls. But I wonder, where does Miami go if Mario does not work out? If this team, I don't know if you fire him year 3 because you have so much money invested in, but you went and got a running back, you went and got a quarterback. I mean, you've invested so much money through NIL, at least relative to what you have on these two players. On that side of the football, your defense is still lacking. If it doesn't work on Mario Cristobal, I mean, I don't know. I guess Nebraska still found a way to get another coach in Matt Rule that gives you some hope. But it's the homecoming, it's the hometown kid, it's the alum. If that doesn't work, I just don't know. If you're a Miami fan, what are you even trying to hang your hat on? I'd feel like you're done, man. That's
Maybe
it.
Luther Campbell.
Yeah.
Could be Luther Campbell. Yeah. Uncle Luke, he coaches. He loves football. Yeah. He's tied into that Optimist Club. Yeah, man, I don't know. That's why I'm saying, Cristobal could get things going there. Because there's no arguing that Miami is in a better place. And they do have talent. They have top 12, 15 talent on that team, in my opinion. And
better as in better than it was, or better than Florida
better than it was. Okay, well, both, and better than Florida. Like right now, the rosters, Florida's win total in Vegas is 4.5. That's their over-under. 4.5.
Well, yeah, those last 5 games are all L's.
That's
right?
a tough schedule. I get it,
yeah.
but it also says something about where the program is. That the 4.5's that's a rough number. So yeah, I think Cristobal has Miami in a place where you're like, man, if he could ever figure out the game day stuff, they could be a perennial playoff contender. Maybe. I mean, the way the world is now with, I guess, NIL money and transfers, if they can get Cam Ward 1 year, maybe they can keep this thing rolling. So I think it would be really good if they had more. I think they'd be dumb to fire him no matter what. It ain't. I just like, who's Cristobal going to get? I mean, who's Miami going to get?
I don't know.
Like you pointed out, that's better, especially if they're still in the ACC. Like, you're not going to get a great coach, and if you do, it's going to be an up-and-coming coach that probably doesn't want to coach there for very long. So I guess you could get a Shula. They're still alive, right? There's some Shulas around.
Ken Dorsey. Although, I don't know, maybe the bloom fell off that rose in Buffalo. He got fired, I think, didn't he?
He did, yeah, a little bit. But, yeah, so I think Florida State fans should root for Napier to stay there as long as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I never want to see Florida win a football game, but I can. But my thing, though, is he has to win 10 games to keep his job, right? I know the number's 4.5, but I don't think Florida, they're not going to keep him if he goes 8-4. They're not going to go, wow, you killed the over. Like we were able to breathe easily in November. Thanks for that.
They might, like if for whatever, it depends on how they win them, right? Like if it's a bunch of young guys that come on and play well and they win and there's some real hope and excitement around the program. Not every 8-4 season is built the same, and if you outperform expectations to that degree, you might be like, okay, yeah, I can see it coming. But there's a chance the AD and the head coach are going to be fired. So we'll see where that one goes. But he's got a lot of work to do because that team is not good enough right now, I don't think, to win 8 or 9 games unless the teams on that schedule don't end up being as good as we think.
Is Norvell still here if they went 8-5 in 2022?
Yes, but there would have been a lot of backlash, I think, or a lot of hand-wringing about it. But yes, I do. Because, look, man, they almost did. They miracled a win at Louisville. They were
LSU
in a dogfight against Florida. Yeah. The LSU game was an extra point. Yeah. Like, right there, that's 10-3 down to 7-6. The Oklahoma game wasn't a gimme by any stretch. They played a lot of close games, and they also lost a game where they threw an interception in field goal range, a 1-point loss. So I get it. They lost some close games too, but yeah, man, you could tell. Like, that's just it. That's the same reason in 2021 we were all disappointed they lost to Florida, but you could tell from the start of that season to the end of that season, there's some hope. Okay, I can see there's something to believe in. They started horribly. They figured some things out. They really matured, and by the end of the season, they were a top 25-ish caliber team. After being horrendous in September, they were top 25 caliber-ish. And then, so you saw some hope. It wasn't the record you wanted. Certainly wasn't the finish you wanted, losing to a bad Florida team. But you had reason to hope because they finished on a 5-3 stretch, and they beat Florida if Jordan Travis isn't knocked out for 3 series, but he was, and they didn't. But still, that's what happened. So I do think 8-5 because you would have even in 2022 you would have seen the building. Okay, I can see because I hate to say it, but wins and loss, not for somebody like Napier because he has no goodwill built up, but wins it's how it looks. The Taggart era, the games some of them were just disgusting and just absolutely uncompetitive. Uncompetitive. Clemson, you're down 42-0 up there. You lose to them down here 59-3 or 10 or whatever it was. Just some absolutely uncompetitive games. Norvell's teams were absolutely competing. And the hope was, okay, when he gets talent in here to go along with the way they compete, they're going to be pretty good. And lo and behold, 19 in a row.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
It's easy for me to say, though. It ain't my paycheck. It ain't my checks that have to clear to pay these guys. But I would have kept them if he'd have gone 8-5 in 2022. Yeah.
Funny thought I had the other day. It's funny, not to get political, but they're talking about certain people not being able to run for president any longer, and it's like the donors are saying they're gonna stop giving money, and it's like just like football. It's just like football.
Yeah.
Like once you lose the donors, then you lose your job usually. Florida State staying busy in recruiting, even though they've got a practice and a camp to get ready for. I think they might have some kind of big weekend this weekend or next. But they signed a wide receiver, Malik Clark, Corey, 4-star out of South Carolina.
No relation.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And now Florida State has jumped up to 7th in the On3 industry team ranking. So that pairs up with C.J. Wiley and Dalen McCutcheon. That's an elite. That's a very elite wide receiver class right now. He told On3 Steve Wiltfong that Norvell, full of energy, very transparent. I like the way it felt like home, away from home, and also knowing that I have to work and compete to get better to get on the field. That's crazy. The kids would say that, man. But yeah, I mean, he has his litmus test. He has his standards. And if we shake our fists at the cloud and we talk about kids being soft these days, but he finds kids that want to work and want to go through it, and that's crazy to me. But that's awesome.
And we know, money talks to a certain degree. We know how this thing is working now and everything. But I do think it is a different kind of kid. And, again, football is hard anyway. Football practice is hard. And most of these guys clearly are really great athletes and highly competitive, these guys in the top 300. But it does say something about a kid that wants that, like truly wants that. That appeals to them. Because Norvell's not easy to play for. Nope. The guys love playing for him, if that makes sense. I think it does. These guys swear by him. Jermaine Johnson still swears by him. Verse, Fisk, they all love him. But he's not easy to play for because he rides you. He stays on you. But as he tells them, and it's a great tack to take. It's like, don't you want to be the best you can be? Don't you want it to be my job to make you the best you can be? Well, then don't get mad when I do it. Don't get mad when I try to make you the best you can be. Don't pout. Just get better, because that's what we're all here for, is for you to get better. We love each other. We're family and everything, but I'm going to ride you because you want me to. You're saying right now you want me to be hard on you. Okay, well, then you got to take it. And the guys that come and play for him and stay here, especially the guys that are actually going to play, like the guys that have a chance to really play. I'm not disparaging guys that transfer. Some of them just need to. They're not quite good enough. But and not many have transferred out just because they don't like Norvell or they're too soft to play for him. But it's going to happen. It has happened. The guys that stick around and play, man, I just think it's going to pay off for them in a big way. That's why I root for Portier. Like, he's still here, man. Williamson, they're still here. They could have gone somewhere. Portier could be somewhere where he'd be guaranteed to be a starter. Darian Williamson, I mean, we don't even know if Williamson's going to get on the field. I think he will, but we have no idea. But he stayed here. And I just want to kind of see those guys rewarded because they stuck it out. It is not easy playing for that dude. Those practices are hard and they're intense, and sometimes you still don't even get on the field after 4 years. But they're still here, and you hope they can make an impact this year.
I like how you talked about this is what they signed up for. They're like embracing the coaching and they're cool with it. It reminds me like when I was a kid and tell my mom, like, all right, wake me up early. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, wake me up early. I'll be fine. I'm telling you, dude, it's fine. Maybe I even wasn't that young. And then she would wake me up and I'd be like, why are you waking me up? I'm like, I want to sleep. Get out of the room. Leave me alone. These kids, they come here and You're
built different. You're built different than they are, Aslan. You're built different.
They're built different. All right, that's a wrap for us. We're going to go cover practice. So we'll talk to you about it on Monday, but we'll be back out at practice Sunday as well. So 2 days worth of observations. They'll be in shells, so helmet and shoulder pads. They're always in helmets, but shoulder pads will come
and
on.
Also remember, Corner Pocket has live music on tonight. I think it's live music.
Temple of the Cat.
Temple of the Cat. If it's not tonight, it's Saturday night. But one of these nights, they're going to have live music, and they always have cold beer and hot women. So just get over there and go have some fun.
Growing hungry. All right, we're done. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.